Hey Stitches, and welcome to the Fairy Godfather Knitcast episode 2. Thank you so much for joining me today. I just want to start out by thanking everybody who subscribed and watched my first video, and especially everybody who left a comment. It was so wonderful to get all the greetings and hellos from all over the world, Australia, Denmark, and all over Canada and the States, and that's just exactly what I was hoping for when I started this channel, was to meet other knitters and talk to other people out there who are interested in the fiber arts and creativity. And I just feel so warmly received and so welcomed. And I just want to really thank you for that. It really does mean a lot. And it just makes me so excited to continue sharing with you guys and continuing to do the Knitcast. So thank you so much for your encouragement and your warm welcome. And I'm very happy to be here with you. I'll start today with what I'm wearing, which is the Phantom Fuzz by Park Williams. You may have seen it over the summer. It was a pretty popular pattern. It's, you know, as you can see, a V-neck jumper. It's done bottom up. And I did it in Drops Kid Silk, color 44. And I just didn't finish it. I didn't really finish any of my summer knits during summer. I was kind of behind on them, so I only really got to wear it once in September. I'll put up the picture here if I can find it. I wore it under a blazer, and I really enjoyed the look and how it went and everything. So I love it, and I'm excited to wear it more in the good weather we will hopefully get eventually when spring and summer come. And this is the only finished object I have to share since last time. And it wasn't something that I was really planning to do. It is called the Big Ugly Hat by Bodil Wolf. I'll put it up here. I don't know these designers, but they have a tank top pattern that I was interested in, and then I found this pattern. And it's really simple, stash busting, scrappy kind of hat. You hold a bunch of yarns together. I think it's only like 32 stitches around the whole thing. You basically create a super bulky weight yarn by just holding things together from your stash. So you can see, you can wear it kind of like in a slouchier way, which is actually how I mostly wear it. And then, or you can sort of fold up the brim and have it a little tighter to the old noggin, you know? So yeah, like I say, this is my only finished object. It was all just stuff I had in my stash. Mostly from when I was working on a penguono for my brother, which maybe I'll talk about in a later episode. But yeah, the hat that I'd been wearing was unraveling and falling apart, and I really needed one. And this pattern really only takes a few hours. I did it literally in a night while I was watching TV. And yeah, so it's really great. I recommend it. And I want to do more of these probably. It's a little tight on me, but it is stretching, and I wore it out in the rain yesterday, and that seems to have made a big difference. I didn't block it before, which I probably should have. I usually block everything. Sometimes with hats, it doesn't seem so necessary, but I think it would have helped in this case. Anywho, moving on to works in progress. Yes, there are so many great comments about the Dustland that I was working on. And yeah, just thank you so much for those. So I have finished it. I finished the body. But as you can see, I need to do the sleeves. So I didn't finish this in time for my family Christmas. But I will just show you what I wore instead, which is a sweater that was a hand-me-down from my dad. I mean, this is a store-bought sweater, but it's from 1992 or 1993. It was my dad's. He handed it down to me a few years ago, and I love wearing it in the Christmas season, so it's not always lost. But anyway, so I didn't finish this in time to wear on the 18th, and then I also did not finish it in time for Christmas, and then I also did not finish it in time for New Year's. But I'm okay with it. Like, Christmas was my goal, and then I think as soon as I realized I wasn't gonna have it done for Christmas, I lost some momentum on it. And then once I finished the ribbing on the bottom, which I did quite long, almost double what it says, I just wanted a break because now I just don't have that deadline goal in mind anymore. But I think it'll still look great all winter. So anyway, I'm very excited. I have more than enough yarn left. I have 2 whole balls plus some. So it should be no problem to do the sleeves. So anyway, I will do them next week. or at least that's my intention, and I hope to be wearing it the next time I do a Knitcast for you guys. So yeah, but like I love the pattern. It's all working out, and yeah, I'm excited. So that's that. In terms of the Armored, which is also a Stephen West pattern that I was working on, I have done this much of the second sleeve. So like the first 3 wedges. And somebody was complimenting the colors that I chose for this, which I really appreciate. And so I thought I would go through. This is the finished, this is the one side finished, right? So I have to do this again and then seam the 2 together to make like a cardigan. So I just thought I would go through and say what all the yarns are. This again was attempting to be a sort of stash busty project. And it all started because I had some of this Cinnamon Girl left. This is Cinnamon Girl from Small Fish Yarns in St. Albert's, Alberta. I'll put a thing up. And I had this yarn from doing the Stag Sweater by Nora Gone for my friend Carrie, which I think I showed last time. So I had some of this left over, and I thought, oh, that'll be great. And then I actually ran out of it and did have to order more. But, you know, that's okay. And I think I have enough now for the second half, but I'm worried that that's going to happen again. And the rest was kind of stashy stuff. So let's see if I can do this. This first wedge is, this is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the colorway Button Jar. I had this left over from when I did the cobblestone sweater for my dad. This is a design by Jared Flood that I did for my dad last Christmas. This next stripe is Kelbourne Woolen's Lucky Tweed in colorway 305, which is Pine. I had this left over from when I knit Nora Gone's Akita for my friend Heather. I'll put that here. So I had some left over from that. This next one is Earth Monochrome. I am obsessed with Earth yarns, URTH. They plant a tree in Africa for every skein that is purchased from them. I believe they are also a women-run collective in Turkey, I believe. They're fantastic, but I love, like, it's just a beautiful, beautiful woolen spun yarn. I think a lot of knitters get obsessed with certain yarns. This is definitely a yarn that I'm obsessed with. Earth Monochrome DK. And this is, they just have numbers. This one is 6059. I see some yarn stores calling it olive, or there's another like more emeraldy green. This is the more olivey green that they have, so olive whatever green. This next one, I know it's Malabrigo Rios, but it was like a special dye lot, I think. I don't know, I don't have the colorway name. And there's like a whole story about this yarn that involves knitting rage that I'm going to talk about in the next Knitcast. But anyway, so I just had some scraps of that. This next one is, again, Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the colorway Meteorite, which I had got to do this hat for my mom, which is a Stephen West hat, painted honeycombs, I believe, or maybe just honeycomb hat. Yeah, so I had this left over. This is West Wool. This is like Stephen West, like the Stephen and Penelope, their brand. So West Wool Tandem, which is DK. I had it left over from knitting the painted brick sweater for my brother-in-law, Kyle. This is the colorway Glass. So that's the next one. And then I started to repeat. So this again is the Shelter Button Jar. This again is the Kelbourne Woolen's Lucky Tweed. This is also Earth Monochrome. This I just had in my stash. I hadn't actually used it in a project yet. I just love Earth Monochrome, as I said. So I had bought up a bunch of it in different colors because it became a little bit hard to get in yarn stores here in Canada. So this is 6053, or as I call it, yellow. And then the olive again. This is called Woe Nessie, this colorway. There's a whole story about it that I will tell next week. So yeah, I don't want to say too much now, but it is from Smash Knits, Fiber Goods. And they did this great, it's called Whoa Nessie, and it's like a boucle. I hope you can see the texture there. Like it has these little like bumps in it and stuff. And then finally, this again is the shelter in button jar. So that's the sleeve. And so I'm, only 3 wedges in on the second side. But I don't know, that feels like good progress to me. And I'm excited, like, I'm hoping I'll definitely be done by the end of the month or early in February. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to having that piece done and being able to wear it this winter. Next up, I have some progress on my twists and turns, which again, you're probably sick of seeing on people's things. But all I really did since last time was this strip. And if you watched a lot of videos about the MCAL this year, people were so sort of mystified by this strip and the way it curls and what it would do in the end. I did really enjoy it. I would just say, like, it has a small cabling detail to it, a small sort of like twisted stitch. And I had watched the techniques on how to do it without a cable needle. In general, I'm kind of obsessed with cables right now, and in general, I just love them. And I do often find that cable needles work for me. Like, I kind of enjoy cable needles, even if it's just a 2/2. Even though I've seen how people do it without the needle. When it is just one stitch, I agree it's very hard. Like, the cable needle can be really fiddly, and so I like the technique you can do without, like, to not use a cable needle. But I was having a really difficult time doing it, like just executing it with my hands. And then what occurred to me was to use a straighter needle. And so I switched to DPNs. These are some older DPNs that I actually inherited from my mom. They are like 0.25 millimeter bigger than what I was using for the rest of the shawl. But I decided that would not create a gauge emergency in this shawl. And so there's just something about having all the stitches on the needle as opposed to on the cable, where I guess they can get really tight and really small, that allowed me to be able to do the twisted stitch technique without a cable needle so much more easily. And so once I just tried that and saw how much easier it was for me and made that switch, it made doing this strip go 10 times faster. Like, I was really struggling with it. Yeah, I meant to say, if you're like an absolute beginner with knitting and you don't know anything about needles, there are straight needles which have something on the end so that stitches don't fall off. And then there are double pointed needles which have points on both sides. And then there are, circular needles that usually have a cord, which can be either fixed or interchangeable. And interchangeable just means that the needle tip comes off and you can put on a needle tip of a different size. So obviously different knitters have different preferences for which ones they like. I mostly use interchangeable, but there are certain projects, and again, like, they are often cable projects, I find, or sometimes lace projects too, where I just actually find a straight needle really helps me. I'm a tight knitter, I think that's why, but I'm not totally sure. Yeah, so that's the progress on this. And then, once I realized that I wasn't going to finish the Dustland sweater in time, the mint green one, then I gave myself permission to cast something else on. So I've cast on something that's kind of like a guilty pleasure knit, that's kind of a just for fun knit, that's my watching TV knit. And that is the Ranger Cowl by Michael Vlodman. This is a new designer to me. I'm not even sure how I came across this on Ravelry, but once I saw this hood, I was obsessed with it. He makes a joke in the write-up about, he says, like, it borders on cosplay. And maybe it does, but I wish life bordered on cosplay a lot more. You know what I mean? Fairy Godfather is all about life bordering on cosplay. So anyway, this is what I have done of it so far. So it has this kind of like twisted rib thing. It has this nice cable detail row, and then you knit across, and this part of the fabric is growing, like there's an increase here, and then this part of the fabric is growing and growing and growing, and that's what I think eventually becomes the hood. So I'm very excited about that. The wool is this Artful Bell, or no, sorry, Artful Sweater. Artful Bell is their fingering weight version. Artful Bell. It's 100% extra fine merino. And it is in the colorway London, which I think, like, I got to go to London for the first time in 2019, and I haven't been back, and I miss it, and I really want to go. I absolutely loved it. And this color really does evoke sort of like the brick and the rainy fog and the mistiness of London. And I just love the way it is knitting up, and I'm excited to wear it, which is always a great, motivator to keep one going on knitting. Yeah, there's just a couple other things I want to share with you this week. The next thing is a maybe design that I'm working on. I've done a swatch, so I feel like I should show it. So I'm experimenting with designing a hat. A lot of people have suggested that that's a great first pattern to release, is like a hat or a scarf. So yeah, I want to do a hat and hopefully release a pattern by the end of, the end of March or sometime this winter. I'd like to get a hat pattern out there. So I just started experimenting with some cabling, and there's this really cool cable I found. This is only one repeat of it, so it's kind of hard to get a sense of how it would look with more repeats, but it's called like a rib and pearl cable, and I don't know, I just find it really interesting. This is some Malabrigo Mecha, I believe, not Rios, the next size up. It's a worsted or a Aran size. And it's just some I had left over in my stash, left over from the Christmas present I made for my mom. And so yeah, I just used it. I just played with like this. There's like a front cross and a back cross on either side of a different kind of cable. I don't think this is how it's gonna look in the end, but it was just fun to play around with and learn a new cable and sort of play with some ideas to try to figure out how to make a hat. I've knit a bunch of hats, but it is a very different process designing it, and I'm excited to learn. Beyond that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some acquisitions, which in my case, all of this is the Les Garçons winter mystery box. Max and Vincent, I mentioned them last time. I mentioned them next time. No, I mentioned them last time. They're based in Montreal. They're awesome. They just did a collaboration week where they collaborated with various other fiber arts and creatives and makers with a bunch of different projects that all looked super cool. And anyway, I had on my Instagram, I was opening each day. They had like a half-month advent, or I think they called it like a winter mystery box. So it went from the 12th or the 13th to the 25th of December. So each day it started with this main skein, and then there were all these little mini skeins that came with it, and then it ended with this very lush silk alpaca thing. And now there was a pattern that came with it for a cowl. And I love Max's patterns. He has just incredible attention to detail and really cool techniques. There's a really cool drawstring technique in this cowl, but I just don't love cowls at the end of the day. I just really don't. I'm more of a scarf person, more of a shawl person. I don't know. I don't like them. And also, like, this is supposed to be the lining, and it's just like this plus stubble, I just feel like do not go together. And yeah, I don't want to do the cowl. So I'm really trying to figure out what to do with this. And it's funny, I see so many videos of people talking about, like, what do you do with your mini skeins, and what are some patterns to bust mini skeins? And it just never seemed like a problem that I would have, and yet now here I am absolutely having it. So I've been looking at a bunch of sock patterns because it is sock yarn. It has that 20% nylon in it. That's so great for socks. But I'm sort of thinking I might do a shawl. I have the pattern for the Stephen West woven chevrons shawl. It came when I did the hybrid knit along, I believe it was in 2020, to do I picked the Winter Lights shawl, but you got two patterns at the same time, and so the other one is the woven chevrons. And so yeah, I think there would be enough that, like, if I used this as my main color, and then I used sort of the green, like these three, as one color in a bit of a gradient, and then I use these three together in some sort of gradient. I would just need a third color, which could be like these pinks and then just some other pink that's in my stash. Or maybe I'll buy one skein for this project. I'm really not sure, but I'm thinking about that, and that feels like probably the way I'm gonna go. Anyway, I think that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoy the podcast, please tell your friends. Please like, please subscribe, please share. And I guess teasing what's coming. So I will do a Knitcast again where I show my works in progress and things I've been working on in 2 weeks' time. Next week on Friday, the 13th, I will be posting a spookier video. So I recently had a short story published in this anthology, Queer Little Nightmares, available at your local bookstore. And it's a really cool anthology with queer writers. It's poetry and fiction, and it's all themed around the idea of the monster and sort of reclaiming the idea of the monster, and you know, how queer people have often been seen as monstrous and freakish and outsiders, and how we are often therefore like represented by or drawn to the monster character in horror movies and this kind of thing. And so it's just really playing with those themes and ideas. I feel very proud to have been included and to have a story in this book. So I decided to do a sweater to celebrate its release. Now, it came out in October, and I didn't finish the sweater on time, but it is done now. And so I was trying to figure out a good time for the video, now that Halloween is past and so far away again. And I thought Friday the 13th would be the perfect time. So next Friday, Friday the 13th, I will release my Queer Little Nightmares sweater video and the story of making it. And then the following week, I will do another Knitcast. And I look so forward to seeing you then. I hope you'll join me. Bye-bye.